everyone, I am back in my kitchen and today we are making focaccia. It's kind of like a pizza dough served as a bread. Love it for appetizers, love it for, instead of a bread before a meal. So here we have 4 cups of all-purpose flour, and in this flour I'm going to add a teaspoon of yeast. A teaspoon of salt, my bad. Here I have my yeast dissolving in 2 cups of warm water with 1 teaspoon of sugar. So I've just let that sit. I went ahead and I pre-did that because that needs to sit a good few minutes to make sure your yeast is good and you want it to come to a frothy bubble like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and put my flour in my stand mixer. To do it like this just to get it incorporated first. You're not going to fool around with anything. You're just going to dump it all in. This recipe's been tested by me, so you can feel free to just go ahead and follow it. So I just like to give it a little bit of a head start. To attach our dough hunk. Guys, this is a very wet dough. It's not your traditional bread or pizza dough. And you're going to start your mixer on low and then move it up to medium. You want this mixing a good 6 to 8 minutes. You really want to activate the gluten and get your dough elasticy and shiny and smooth. So we're just going to go ahead and do that. Mention that in my yeast mixture there was 2 teaspoons of yeast, which is about equivalent to a package of yeast, and I used dry active yeast. I did not use the rapid rise. I used just your normal traditional yeast, dry. So I have some flour here set aside because I like to use it for these sticky situations here. So that's what the dough looks like. You can see it's rather wet. Okay, just flour your hands. And in here I have a good amount of olive oil. There's a good 2 tablespoons in there for sure. So like I said, the dough is sticky and it's a little wet. And that's what you want. So what I like to do is just move that around the olive oil. Okay, get it coated. Coat your bowl too. A little flip. Okay, what we're going to do is I have a lid here for this bowl. If you don't have a lid, that's okay. Plastic wrap and then a tea towel over top. You're going to let this sucker go a good hour. A good hour at room temperature. If you have a warm place where you'd like to put it, just make sure it's not hot and it's not too warm. Sometimes when I'm in a rush, I'll put my microwave on for about a minute without the dough in the microwave. Just put the microwave on it with nothing in it for a minute. Kind of gets it heated up a bit, and then you can throw your dough in covered with a tea towel, and that just helps activate that yeast and get it going. Like I said, I do that when I'm in a rush, but right now we're just gonna cover it. We're gonna let it sit at room temperature. I've closed my window. We don't want any drafts. And we're gonna come back in an hour and I'll show you what that looks like. Hey guys, we are back and our dough has doubled in size and it's looking just perfect. So now at this step, we're just going to sprinkle a little bit of flour on our work surface here. Remember I told you the dough is going to be a little wet? This is your opportunity at this stage here to give the dough a little bit more structure. So we're just going to sprinkle generously with some flour and tap it out. This is what you call a second rise. If you're using rapid yeast, which I often do when I'm in a pinch, sometimes it's 4 o'clock and my husband wants pizza for 6, so I will use the rapid yeast. For focaccia, which is more like a bread, I like to use the traditional yeast and not omit this step. If you're using the rapid yeast, you can omit this step. You literally can go from this step into stretching it on your pizza pan. But I like this way because the longer this sits and the more times you get to fold it, it lends some structure to your dough and also flavor. That longer that yeast has to proof, it's just gonna make your focaccia more flavorful. It's gonna have a nicer chew. Like I said, I prefer this method. So what I've done is I've just folded it over like an envelope, and we want to make sure we have some good amount of flour here. Okay, we're going to roll it back gently into the bowl. Like I said, rapid yeast, you don't need to do this step. There we go. We're gonna let that sit until it comes to double again. Depending on your room temperature, you're totally safe to do this in the microwave like I had said earlier. But I'm going to leave it on the counter because obviously my room temperature is good. My dough is rising really, really well. And I'm gonna check it in about 15-20 minutes. Okay, see you back. Okay, our dough is perfectly risen now. And we're going to spread it on our cookie sheet. This is a very well greased cookie sheet. I greased it with a good generous amount of olive oil. Okay, now the fun begins. See those air pockets in the dough? That's what the second rise does. So we're just going to stretch that out. I don't know if anyone's ever had this happen, but I find it happens often. The dough keeps coming back and it doesn't stay where you want it to stay. And that's a couple things. It needs to rest a little longer, but also because it is so slippery on the bottom. So what I like to do is just make that to go away, that slip, and sprinkle a little bit of flour. Voila. Now you do not have to press this into a perfect rectangle because it is focaccia, it's not pizza. And rustic is good, but I do like to have a little bit of some shape to it. So making these videos, guys, because I love to cook. I have a ton of recipes in my little head here. And because I want to show you guys, it's not just about a recipe. It's about learning these little tricks. What my goal is to make you guys learn, sorry for the stutter, make you guys learn that cooking is really easy and there's no reason to be afraid of it. And that's what my mission is in teaching everyone my recipes is I can give you guys a recipe, but unless I show you and I tell you all the little tricks that I've learned over the years, you guys are going to be afraid to follow it. So that's why I'm doing these videos. I want just everyday women. I am not a chef. I'm just someone who has a passion for cooking, and I guess I do it well, so I'm told. So I just want to share that passion with you and to let you guys know that home cooking is the best way to eat. Let's face it, there's a lot of crap in our food, and if you can make things from scratch, you're better for it, your family's better for it, and it saves you pennies in the grocery store, that's for sure. So anyway, that's why I've decided to make these videos. I've started posting them on Facebook. I've created a page. The response has been like unbelievable, and it's pumped me into making more videos. And so we started a YouTube page. So you can find me on YouTube as well. So these recipes will be posted in all those sites. And the YouTube site is Cooking at Home with Nancy. So now we have our pizza dough stretched. And what we're gonna do is just poke it a little bit. We're almost at the end. Forgot to mention, I have my oven, while this was rising for the second time, I did put my oven on. It's on at 400, and we're getting it nice and preheated. So, prick, 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 prick. I like to even dimple it a little bit. And this is my favorite part. This is where you make the recipe your own. So at this point, you can just throw your herbs in and top this crust with anything you like. What I've done, what I find works really, really well, is I've gone ahead and put some herbs in a bowl. And here I have olive oil, some chopped garlic, rosemary, and a little bit of black pepper. That's it. So what I like to do is I like to brush that seasoning on my crust. But before I do that, my favorite thing to do is put some olives in. I happen to love olive bread, and this is exactly the same taste. So I have some pitted olives that I'm just going to, I don't know if you can see that, I'm just kind of burying them in my dough here. These are my Zia Rosa's homemade olives. Talk about not eating crap and everything homemade. My family does it best. And I'm so happy to have them because my parents are gone and I've learned a lot from them, and I like to learn a lot from even my mother-in-law's region of Italy. I just love to learn these recipes and carry on the tradition, because really that's what it's all about. That is my love for my culture through food. And I know my mom would be so proud. So Zia Rosa's olives that I've pitted ahead of time. I like to bury them. We joke in our family that, you know, Italians have been preparing for the coronavirus years ahead, and it's funny, but it's so true. None of us that do these things will ever starve. You should see my cantina. It's got tomatoes, it's got olives, it's got peppers, it's got dried meat. It's just awesome to have all these, the knowledge of all these recipes, and to pass them down to our kids. How lucky are we? How lucky are they? Okay, so that's it for the olives. And then I am going to brush with my seasoned olive oil generously. You can drizzle. I just find that this is a little bit neater. You got an even coating of oil. And as this rises, the oil is going to sit in the pockets of those dimples and be oh so good. I know there's a lot of oil. No one said this was low cal. But you can't skip on it. You don't want dry focaccia. You want to get the crust, the edges, and there we go. So this is ready to rise again. So essentially we have 3 rises with this dough. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to cover with plastic wrap. I just love plastic wrap. It's always going in a direction you don't want it to go. Okay, there we go. You don't have to do this tight. You just want this to be loosely covered because this crust is going to blow up. It's going to rise. So you can leave this as long as you like. Minimal, I would leave, I would say half an hour covered with a tea towel. Mine has been rising for a good part of the morning, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's ready to go in the oven. And the longer you can let it rise, the better. So here we have, we're gonna cover this with a tea towel. Look at this, guys. Wow, that's beautiful. That is gorgeous. All right, let's give it a little bit more. Careful not to deflate it. Just drizzle that. You can see the oil settling in the little pockets. You can top this with grated cheese when it's almost ready. You don't want to do it before the cheese will burn. Okay, so that's ready for the oven. So we've got 400-degree oven that's been preheated. And we're going to bake this 15-20 minutes, and I'll see you back. Hey guys, my focaccia is done, and look how beautiful that is. Mine took a total of 16 minutes. Everybody's oven is different. Mine tends to be running on the hot side, so 15 minutes, 16 minutes, up to 20 minutes. You be the judge. This is what you're looking for. And I forgot to mention, you do want to sprinkle a little bit of sea salt on your pizza dough or focaccia dough before you bake it. Forgot that. Mention that. So we're just gonna cut into this. How nice that is. Oh my goodness. Hot. The smell of garlic and rosemary, oh my gosh. What a combination. There we go, guys. There's the bubbles that I like to see. Nice soft center, crunchy top, spongy. Voila. If you can make a focaccia with store-bought dough like this, send me the video because I have yet to see it. This is what it's all about, guys. Homemade cooking. Cooking from scratch and not being afraid to do it. Look at that, guys. Oh my gosh. Someone's gonna be happy when they come home from work. Voila, homemade focaccia. Easy peasy. Don't be afraid. Try it. See you later.